Now we're ready to show you live coverage of a debate between the candidates in this year's Tennessee Senate race. Democratic Congressman Harold Ford faces off with former Chattanooga Mayor, Republican Bob Corker. We'll have live coverage starting in just a moment, courtesy of WTVC-TV in Chattanooga. The debate coming to you from the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. And as we wait for this debate to get started, we'll remind you Representative Harold Ford is a 5-term member of Congress, seeking to be the first black U.S. Senator elected from the South since the post-Civil War Reconstruction period. And Mr. Corker is a businessman and former Chattanooga mayor.
My name is Calvin Sneed. I am your moderator tonight. For the next hour, uninterrupted, Democrat Harold Ford of Memphis and Republican Bob Corker of Chattanooga will be answering questions from our audience in this hotly contested race for the Tennessee seat for the United States Senate. First of all, thank you, gentlemen, for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our audience is made up of 275 people. The tickets were handed out by the sponsors and the two campaigns. The questions have been selected from the audience and reviewed by representatives of the Chattanooga Times Free Press and News Channel 9. Now, here are the ground rules for tonight's debate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening remarks and 2 minutes for their closing remarks. Each candidate will then have 3 minutes to answer the question from our audience member, and the opposing candidate will then have 1 minute for rebuttal. Robin Derryberry of Derryberry Public Relations is our timekeeper tonight. The candidates will receive a warning when they have used up half of their time, and then a 10-second warning before their time is up. Now, who gets to go first has already been decided by a coin toss. Bob Corker won that coin toss earlier. He has decided to be the last candidate to speak this evening. Because Harold Ford lost the coin toss, he chooses the order of opening statements, and he has chosen to speak last in opening statements. So, gentlemen, let's get right to it. Let's begin with Bob Corker's opening remarks. Mr. Corker, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Well, I'm thrilled to be back in my hometown. I've enjoyed campaigning all across this state, but I'm thrilled to be here tonight. I want to welcome you, Congressman. I enjoyed being in your hometown on Saturday night.
Thank you, Mayor.
This is a town, Congressman, where I started working when I was 13, down on places like Broad Street and 6th Street and South Creek Road, and where I went to City High School right over the hill, and where I went on to UT, graduated, saved $8,000, and started a little business on Cherokee Boulevard that operated around the country. This is where I learned about public service, working down on Reed and Mitchell Streets and seeing a need there, worked with others in this community to lead the creation of a nonprofit that's helped over 10,000 families here have decent housing. And this is where I learned the value of bold vision and bringing people together, because that's what this community has done together, worked together to create big ideas and to make them reality. I went on to be Commissioner of Finance for our state, where I worked with people to create one of the best welfare reform packages in our country, taking the rolls from 96,000 down to 57. And then I had the tremendous honor to come back to this community and work with citizens here to do things like create tremendous amounts of investment, $2.1 billion, lower violent crime tremendously, streamline our city's government, and today we have the lowest property tax rates here since the 1950s, using teacher incentives to drive up education. I feel like I've played a small role with so many people in this community to help shape this community. But what this community has also done is to help shape me. And what you've done is taught me the power of people working together. And you've taught me to wake up each day looking at problems as opportunities. Opportunities to solve the great challenges that I want to try to solve in the United States Senate. I look forward to working with you. I look forward to talking further tonight. And I hope to have the opportunity to chart a constructive course for our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Corker.
I'm delighted to be here, Mayor. Thank you for your kindness, and I love this city as well. I've spent a considerable amount of time over the last, really 2 years, but especially the last year and a half. Right before leaving the hotel, Mayor, we learned that Iraq and Baghdad faced a series of explosions on the U.S. asset. We learned, obviously, in the last 48 hours that the North Koreans have tested a nuclear weapon underground. We also learned in the last 48 hours that former Secretary of State James Baker, who served under the first President Bush, at the behest of this President Bush, has developed some alternatives on the ground in Iraq. Even Secretary Baker has concluded that the state of core strategy that President Bush has pursued now for 3 years is not working. I'm concerned and encouraged by it. Encouraged because there's at least an acknowledgement that there are other options other than cut and run or stay the course. I'm a believer that we can decentralize Iraq and still keep it together. Divide the country into 3 regions, Sunni, Shia, Kurd. Give each regional autonomy and create or help to create a central government with authority over the borders and the ability to divide the oil revenue up equitably. I say I'm concerned because Secretary Baker will not make any recommendations formally to the president until after the election. That, in my mind, is cynical and dangerous. We've seen in the last 24 hours efforts to bring this North Korea situation into perspective and to give it some understanding. It's my belief fully that bilateral talks should begin. We should allow the United Nations to work through their process, but America should never, and I say never, outsource our security or diplomacy to any international body nor any countries. We should work closely with them, but find ways to make America safer and future generations of those in this great city and all around our state and this country safer in the process. I'm hopeful that tonight we can get into some of those issues and talk about our future and how we do it together.
Thank you, Mr. Ford.